guys, so today I'm working on a 3rd gen 2500. This is the just the gas engine. I'll show it to you here. 2500 5.7 Hemi, and what I got going on is I'm going to be replacing these U-joints on the drive axles. I'm going to be doing the upper and lower ball joints, and I'll be replacing the hub here. So in order to do that, obviously you have to remove the tire, and then you'll be pulling out the caliper with the mounting bracket, which holds a bolt here and one down here, which I already pulled. And then this will come off, and you'll want to take and put a lever back here, like right here, and just kind of pry this brake pad back to relieve it off the rotor. And then once that's out of the way, you should be able to get this actual rotor off, and then we can work on getting this nut broke loose, and then we'll be moving on to knocking this steering knuckle out. And anyways, we'll start with that. Alright, so you can see I got the caliper off with the mounting bracket, got the rotor slid off. You're always going to want to prop it up on a tire or something so the hoses aren't being stretched and getting ruined. Next thing you're going to want to do, as you can see, I pulled the Carter key out. Make sure you have a nice little container to keep all your stuff in. You'll then go ahead and pull this nut, and all I've got is 1 3/4 inch, but it does fit. I'm assuming it's like a 40mm or something, 36. I'm not sure. I just know 1 3/4 inch works for me. Probably 1 11/16 inch would be a little better, but I don't have that size. So at this point where I'm at, I got to put the tire back on, lower the truck down. I'll have to take the center cap out so that way I can access that nut, break it loose, jack the truck back up, finish taking that nut off. Then that will disengage this drive axle from the hub assembly here. And with that done, then I could get to the back side here and get these 4 bolts. Let's see if you can see them here. Well, you can see the threads coming through. And those are 18mm. Once that's done, then this whole hub assembly will come off. And then you can access the drive shaft, or drive axle, to get to that. But you still can't pull it out yet because you got to take off the steering knuckle. In order to do that, I got to take the nuts off the ball joints, upper and lower, knock it out, and then pull it out. And then I'll be able to get the drive axle off. So next step, put the tire back on, get that nut off, get it broke loose. You can get funky with it sometimes and just, you know, maybe put your studs back on, like here and here, and put a bar in here, and then put a bar on, or your breaker bar on that to break it loose. But this thing, I want to say it's probably like 180 foot-pounds or something. I haven't looked it up yet, so typically they don't just come off very easy. Alright, so brake calipers off, got the 4 bolts out on the hub assembly on the back, got the nut off. Obviously we are, I'd like to show you guys this here. Right here on the line, there's supposed to be a bracket that goes under on the ball joint. I'll show you on this side. Right here, and you can see, this is the other side of it, so the ball joint nut actually holds it on. So if you guys are wanting to know where that bracket goes, you would assume that it would go on the mountain bracket for the caliper, but it does not. It goes on the ball joint. Somebody has had this side apart before ball joints were done, you can see they installed a greasable ball joint down here and one on top. We're still going to go ahead and replace them. I'm doing the, like I said, the axle shaft U-joints and replacing the hubs, and I'm also replacing the brake pads, so I'll show you guys that too. So anyways, now that this is all done, I'll unhook this wire. These just simply pop out. It will unplug up here, right here behind the panel. Once that's all routed out, you pull the hub assembly off, and you can hit it with a hammer on the backside. You got pullers, or some guys will simply put the bolt back in on the backside, turn the steering wheel with a like extension into this, turn the steering wheel, and it will press the whole assembly off. So I'm going to go ahead and get that off there. Okay, so your caliper shield comes off with the hub assembly. It pinches in between that and the steering knuckle. Your wire just runs right up between the steering knuckle and the shield. Comes off, like I said. Now that that's done, all you got to do is just kind of pull on this drive axle, kind of slam it back and forth. See if I can show you that. Alright, so got that pulled out. Now before I do this U-joint, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it here, and I'll mark it on the axle here, so that way it all goes back in the same position. A lot of this stuff is balanced, so you don't want to get it out. Next thing I will do, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and bust this tie rod nut off. Remove the, well, I don't have any Carter keys on this one, but bottom one has Carter key. Remove those nuts, hit that knuckle, get that dropped out so I can get those ball joints out. So the nut is off of the tie rod in there. Like I said before in videos, you want to take it all the way off, give it on there a couple threads, hit it right here. Boom. Other option's a pickle fork. And then I'll go ahead and get these ball joints. So here's something. Carter key is mashed in there so hard that it did not want to come out, so all you need to do is just cut it as close as possible on each side until you can get the socket on, and then they're soft, so you'll still be able to just twist it off. It'll just shred the rest of that out and you'll be able to pull it off. Alright guys, this tie rod's off, upper nut's off, lower nut's off. Now what you're going to need to do is hit it again. You're going to want to hit it somewhere around here. Turn it. And then same on the bottom. There it is. Now, time to get the ball joints out. And that's what my little press is for. It helps. I'm going to want to pull this grease zerk fitting, which I'm still not sure how they did that. Looks like it's all, well, maybe it did that when that dropped, but I need to pull that grease zerk fitting. There is a C-clip right here, if you could see it. That'll have to be pulled before this could come out. Now the other side was in there so bad that the top came out. The bottom didn't want to, so I took the grinder and I literally cut across here, and I cut across here in an X pattern, and then I just hit it and hit it here, and it kind of just makes it so it kind of comes in on itself. I also hit it on the inside edge here a little bit, and then you're able to drive it out of there if that press isn't working. So see if we can't get this done. Okay, now that upper one's out, we'll go ahead and work on getting this lower one out. And you're going to want to get a pair of these bad boys. And like I said, there is a C-clip in here. And I'm trying to do this one-handed here. Let's see here. So sometimes it's just easier because it was in there so bad. I just took a punch and hit it, broke it apart. Comes with a new one on the new ball joint anyways, so not a big deal. Now the fun part's going to be trying to get this one pressed out. If it, like I said, if it doesn't press, I'll go ahead and cut it with the grinder just across, and I'll go ahead and smash it out. Look how bad this thing is. Just completely rusted out. And a bunch of debris up in there. Heat helps. You can get it hot enough like I was doing, and then you spray some PB Blaster on there. It'll actually expand the metal between the two, between the ball joint and the outer, and it'll allow it to soak down in between and penetrate, so it'll free it up a little bit. So this is how you do the bottom one. Put it like that, up through the upper one. It's kind of at a weird angle, you can see. Still works. And as you're torquing this down, like so, make sure you give it some wax here. And it will help free that up. As you can see, it started moving. It's dropped about 1/4 inch. And now that it's actually free and moving, I should be able to just knock it out. Just like that. Now I've got all the ball joints out. I'm getting ready to put the new ones in. I always go ahead and make sure they are exactly the same. This is an aftermarket one. The original one that came out, you can see the grease fitting. And so are these. But the last guy put them in like this, and he literally faced them towards the caliper. And there's no way to actually get in to grease this thing when you do that. So make sure when you put this thing in, you face it somewhere where it's accessible. And on this rig, out the front here, is going to be the most accessible point. There's nothing there. You just bring your grease gun in, hit it, grease it every 6 months or so. Unfortunately on this truck, get to looking at it, you can see that lower control arm, it's been replaced. This for the sway bar link is bent. And then this upper ball joint is a custom offset one. So unfortunately I got to put that back in because we don't have one. 150 bucks. This seems to still be pretty solid and good, unlike the bottom one here, all wobbly and rusted. This one's not. So I'll go ahead and reuse this, put it back as close as I can. He's got to get alignment anyways, and hopefully that all works out. Another thing is you're going to want to press this in. Don't be smashing it in with a hammer. You could probably put a socket on the bottom, as long as you could clear that, you know, clear the threads here, and then tap it in. But you're going to want to be gentle about it. You don't want to be beating the crap out of the ball joint and running it before you even get to use it. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get that pressed in, get the top one put back in, and get this button back up. Okay, lower ball joint's back in, the upper one is back in. Like I said, you can see how it adjusts. I guess this is going to be right about here somewhere. You could also see from that video that I am constantly changing out these adapters. As you're pressing down, it'll start to bottom out on itself, and then you gotta change it to a different one that no longer bottoms out on itself, so that way you can get the full sync. You'll also see I tap on this to get that vibration. That way it'll vibrate and help it slide in. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the steering knuckle back on. I'll then go ahead and get this U-joint out, and that way I can get that drive axle back in. So they say tighten this one to 30 foot-pounds, tighten the upper to 70 foot-pounds, tighten this to 55, and then you come back and you go ahead and hit this one at 140 to 160. Obviously it is not on me, it's on you guys to do your own research on what your torque spec should be. So, well, like I said before, that's on you, not me. Look it up. It's your responsibility. I take no responsibility for your actions. So, but obviously tighten that up a little bit before you tighten that upper one all the way, and then finish torquing that one down. Alright, steering knuckles on. It's torqued to what I found for specs that I was supplied with. Like I said, find your own specs, do your own searching on that, not responsible. Next part is getting these U-joints out. So first thing you're going to want to do, go ahead and scribe it. That way these go back in the same alignment. Next thing is you're going to see you have C-clamps. There are little C-clips in here. 4 of them. One here, 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 and on the lower one. Knock those out. Okay, now you can see that clip, how it goes in between. And then, like I said, you just get a little pop here. It should come out the way out. That's what it should look like. Like I said, you have 4 of those. Okay, so I got the U-joint out. It was a nightmare on this side. I have no clue why. The passenger side, I wish I would have made a video on that one. It came right out just by, like I said, you know, hitting it here and here, which drives this cap out. And then flip it over, do the same the opposite way. Strangely enough, the other U-joint on the other side, passenger side, was completely like disintegrated. This one actually had a lot of life left in it, but for some reason it was locked in on these yokes. So, you know, moving on, this will be a lot easier now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some anti-seize on the inside of here, these, and then you just simply take these caps off, put one side up in, put the other side up in, put the caps back on, tap them down, and put those C-clips that you're supplied with back in. It's a good idea if you take the old ones out, save a few. Sometimes you lose these things in the dirt. You could use an old one. Okay, that's it there. You can see I have like my little scoring mark. You barely tell it's on there. Seat clips are in. One thing I want to add is once you get these seat clips in, you might have seen me do it, but you want to hit like downward here, then back this way. It'll set that cap tight against the seat clip, loosen it up so it's not so tight. Sometimes they will tighten up. Okay, and before I put this drive axle in, I go ahead and I put anti-seize on the splines. You probably put some 90 weight or something. I do it so it slides in easier, keeps it from rusting. And you literally just guide it up in there. Get it through the hole. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth. And that's it. It's in. Now I put the brand new hub assembly on, get the wire ran up for the ABS, and then I'll do the brake pads. Once again, lots of anti-seize on the splines around where the hub sets. It's really tight in there. There's a spot that it likes to rust in, so I put it there. I put it on the flange of the hub itself, all the bolts. Now you just need to put the brake shield on, like so. Slide the hub assembly on there, get some bolts put in there. Hub assembly's on, the 4 bolts are in. Go ahead and put your washer and your nut on there. Torque that down to specs, and then put your Carter key in. Once that's done, then we can move on to putting that brake caliper bracket on, and then we'll get the pads put in. Okay, so plug the clip in up here, push it back into the panel back there, and then you just work your way down. This little guy pushes in right here. Just sit however, like so. This literally clips on back here. This one clips on. Oop, missed one. Let's see, it clips on there. 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 And then right here. And then the last one I'll put on once I get the brakes up on the spindle here. So now that I got the rotor put back on here, just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and unbolt the caliper from the mounting bracket, get the mounting bracket put back on, and then I can pull the pads out, compress the caliper, and then put the pads in. And then I'll show you how I tighten this nut. Here's a little tip for you. If you're doing all this by hand like me, use a 1/4 or a 3/8 ratchet to tighten all this back up. And once you get it cinched down, then switch to the 1/2 inch ratchet or torque wrench. The reason for it is you got more gears on these smaller ratchets and it's quicker. Alright, now that you got the brake mount on, caliper mount, you're going to want to remove these clips. These are just guide rails. Install the new ones, same way you took them off. Just like so. And then, once you get that, there we go. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to compress these, and I just use one of these and then the old brake pad. I just put the brake pad in here because your brake pad's actually set on here, and then you put your caliper on. But in order to get that to squeeze down evenly, I just put that in there, compress it until this is all the way in. That gives me enough room when I put the new pads on to slide it in. Another thing I would not like to say is I go ahead and put anti-seize on this and on the top, and then on these little pistons here, I just pop these out. You could put anti-seize, or you could put the grease they supply you with. What that does is it just allows it to ride back and forth so it doesn't bind up. Same with the pads, allows them to slide so they don't get bunched up on one side and wear funny. We'll go ahead and do that. Make sure you spray the back of your pads with some of this disc brake quiet. Keeps the caliper and the pad from squeaking. Alright guys, once you get your anti-seize on those rails and those little guides, like I said, you go ahead and put some anti-seize on the end of these too. Go ahead and you just click it up in. You just literally push in and push on. And then once you compress this, then you can slide your caliper back on. And like I said, go ahead and put some anti-seize on these pins or the grease, put some on the bolts, and then put the caliper back on. So when you go to set this caliper, you'll notice, see how it rocks out on the bottom on this side? On the passenger side, it actually tips out from the top. Reason for that is because this one's wider here, narrower there, but it's the same bracket, it's just flipped. So passenger side, it dumps in from the bottom and tips in. Driver side, you slide it up in to the groove and then rock it in at the bottom. Other thing you're gonna have to worry or watch out for is these little pins. It won't want to go. It's because this pin is actually hitting on the stud it mounts to. The bolt goes in, so you gotta reach back there, push it in, and then it'll go in. And don't do that. See how I got it twisted up? It means I twisted up my brake caliper. I get too busy making this video sometimes and not paying attention, so I need to take that off, twist it around, get that straightened out so it's just a nice loop. Other thing is these are 13mm, and I just hand tighten those, and once that's done, then this little thing could clip on here. Like I said, the bracket for this one's missing because they put a offset ball joint in there and never put the bracket back. So that should be fine though, because it'll be up in the air. And then the last thing I was going to show you was tightening this bolt. Now here's what I'm going to do. If I have it with me here. Anyways, I just drop, I'll have to go get it, but I'm just going to drop a punch in here. That's going to lock it against the mounting bracket. And then I'm going to crank this up with the torque wrench to like 150. And then I'm just going to give it some Hercules. And I'm going to probably turn it another quarter turn because it's supposed to be like 250. And I don't have a torque wrench that goes 250, but it'll be close enough. This is 150, way over 150. So now, go ahead and take this guy, put it on here, put it on there, go. Now last thing to do, just put my cardi key pin in. Put the tire back on. I probably want to clean this up a little bit. Get my fingerprints and grease off there with some brake cleaner. And then put the tire back on. And we're done. Other thing I was just going to show you was I do take the cap off this. Kind of helps letting the air out when you're pressing those calipers. That way it has somewhere to go. Sometimes you got to suck it out with like a little turkey baster or whatever so it doesn't go everywhere. But as we're so far down that his brake fluid was that it actually filled it up to the proper height. So that's it. Like I said, just make sure you check your torque specs, all that stuff, and figure it out. And hope you guys liked. If you do, tell your friends, subscribe, and I'll keep making some videos and hope to catch you on the next one.